Welcome, let us take a look at the Archmage Inquisitor. The Archmage archetype used to be much more popular, but right now it is not. It's a support gem that you can link to any hit-based non-arcane non-vol spell you cast yourself, so that it will add lightning damage based on how much unreserved mana you have, and how much mana the skill costs. It limits the choice of viable builds you can base on this gem already. We've decided to link it to the Arc spell. The Inquisitor's Ascendancy keystones here are Sanctuary, Pious Path, Righteous Providence, Inevitable Judgment, and Divine Guidance gained via a pair of Forbidden Jewels. The character is able to gather close to 10,000 mana by allocating a lot of mana nodes and equipping many uniques. You have to have all of your mana not reserved to reap the immense benefits granted by Archmage support. We recommend Essence Worm and only having one aura off charge. To increase the mana cost of Arc, link it with as many support gems as are applicable. Each support gem adds its cost multiplier. The body armor we've used has no links at all, but you can still create a 12-link setup using Bitterdream and the Squire. That can increase the mana cost to over 6,000. With Inevitable Judgment, all your elemental damage will treat resistances as their 0%, so you can use any elemental damage spell. Arc seems to be the best one. It will be supported by a lot of gems, but only a few will have any effect. It plays like a regular Unleash spellcaster with low cast speed. With Mind over Matter and bonuses from the unique helmet, the character is very durable. As long as you have mana, half of the damage is taken from mana first, and then has to go through over 5,000 of combined life and ES. You can then get some more armor or maximum elemental resistances. Clear speed is great as you gain a lot of mana on kill. Densely packed maps are the best here. Single target damage is more complicated. If you won't kill the boss before you run out of flask charges, it might be bad. That is unless you can leech mana. Only the Squire and Forbidden Jewels are of any value, but just these items make the build very expensive. There are a lot of unique items worth your attention that are specialized in granting more mana and mana-related unique modifiers. These are mostly cheap as there are not many meta builds that rely that heavily on mana. The Squire and Jewels are the only pricey item on this list, so be sure that you can afford it. You might also not want to use the unique helmet and boots due to their noticeable drawbacks. Mind Spiral provides you with a lot of maximum mana, energy shield, and damage recouped as mana, but you won't be able to leech mana. If you want to leech mana, switch it for a rare helmet. Bitterdream adds 6 additional support gems, massively increasing the mana cost of your spell socketed there. A lot of them are useless or even hindering, but it's still the best weapon you can get. The Squire allows for 3 extra support gems, making your main setup a 12-link. Undoubtedly a very important component of the build. You don't need a 6-link body armor. Replica Chaom's Heart is the most appealing choice due to the massive amount of mana and some lightning damage. Skyforth grants a lot of mana, movement speed, stun, immunity, and power charges, but you won't be able to regenerate life or ES, which is very bad, especially with Pious Path and Sanctuary. Atziri's Foible is without a shadow of a doubt the best amulet for this build. It has a lot of mana-oriented modifiers, all of which are useful. It's very cheap and so is its anointment. You can socket 1 aura skill in the Essence Worm Ring and still have all your mana unreserved. Great deal. If you can't find yourself a reliable source of frenzy charges, get the Militant Faith Jewel, the Dominus variant, and transform the Agnostic Keystone into Inner Conviction. Use Clear Mind for an increased mana regeneration rate and spell damage, but be sure no mana is reserved. Put Healthy Mind next to Instability and allocate Cruel Preparation for a massive mana increase, around 1,000 in total. Divine Guidance Keystone is pretty much mandatory. It provides you with a lot of mana and damage. It is responsible for around 20% of your total DPS. Get it via a pair of Forbidden Jewels. Increased Critical Strike Chance or another Consecrated Ground modifier are the best Zealotry modifiers on a Watcher's Eye. A lot of Clarity modifiers are also great, but the aura itself is pretty bad. If you're using a single aura, Sublime Vision might be appealing. But be careful, the Zealotry modifier is pretty much useless. Besides accumulating maximum mana, keep in mind that you also need mana regeneration rate if you want to pick fights with tough enemies, and a 100% critical strike chance to penetrate resistances via inevitable judgment. It can be done by foraging strength and intelligence. The Ice Golem will require 75 dexterity, so keep an eye on it too. Maximum life is only half as important as it would be in a regular build, but still great. Rare Helmet is abundant with mana modifiers. You can try to get one of many Eater of Worlds implicits for mana regeneration rate. Use Rare Helmet only if you have a source of mana leech. The Mind Spiral is still better in most cases. Rare Boots are the best option for footwear. You can still get around 70 mana, resistances, movement speed, and life without any downsides. On your gloves, again, look for maximum mana, life, resistances, and some other rare mods, a lot of them found only on the Redeemer-influenced pairs. A great belt is actually quite hard to get here. You could get one with a lot of mana, life, resistances, attributes, mostly strength, and some flask modifiers for more mana regeneration. Maximum mana and mana regeneration rate can be very impactful on a ring, so be sure to have one with such modifiers, but don't forget about maximum life and resistances. Maximum mana, life, attributes, and resistances are what you should look for on the regular jewels. One lightning damage cluster jewel is enough. Scintillating Idea is great as it increases mana, Stormdrinker allows you to leech ES, and Prismatic Heart offers resistances. Other notables increase damage. Flasks. Use Bottled Faith for increased damage and critical strike chance, easily the best unique flask you can get. For other flasks, use one for life and mana. The Seething Prefix grants the resources instantly, but the Caustic one might be better on the mana flask. Quicksilver Flask, Diamond Flask, or Granite Flask are your other best choices. These should increase your armor, critical strike chance, or movement speed by specific suffixes. Arc is a simple lighting spell that chains off of enemies. In this setup, it is also linked to Bitterdream's Bone Chill, Hypothermia, Ice Bite, Cold Penetration, added cold damage, and Inspiration support gems. These are mostly used to increase the mana cost, but you'd benefit greatly from hitting chilled opponents and some frenzy charges. Link it with Elemental Focus and Spell Echo. In the Squire Shield socket unleash, Archmage, and increased critical strikes. Power Charge on critical or increased critical damage might be equally good choices too, depending on your critical strike chance. Remember, it has to be 100%. Arcane Cloak. A guard spell that spends a majority of your current mana to protect you from incoming damage. It's very efficient with high mana regeneration. Flame Dash allows you to teleport over a short distance and stores 3 charges. Link both of these to the Arcane Surge, which you can level all the way up. Vortex is used mostly to chill enemies and increase your arc damage, which is linked to Hypothermia support. It can also kill smaller enemies with a few powerful support gems. Link it with increased critical damage, increased critical strikes, and power charge on critical to generate power charges if you're not using Skyfer, or Hypothermia support if you do. Sigil of Power creates a field in which you can spend mana to upgrade it. It adds lightning damage to spells and makes you receive less damage at maximum stages. Frost Shield drains some of your energy shield to protect you while inside the field, but more importantly, it grants some additional base critical strike chance. Ice Golem increases your critical strike chance. Seek the anomalous version for an increased buff effect. All spells are activated after taking some damage when linked with cast when damage taken. It is optional, you might not want to use it for more control during boss fights. Use Assassin's Mark Curse for an increased critical strike chance and multiplier. Zealotry increases critical strike chance and spell damage. Socket it in the Essence Worm to have all your mana unreserved. You might switch it for a different aura if you already have a 100% critical strike chance. You should kill all 3 bandits for 2 additional skill points, but helping Alira might be a very good idea too. It grants resistances, critical strike multiplier, and mana regeneration, all needed. We've picked Soul of Solaris. Dealing with bosses might be troublesome not only due to the low mana regeneration but a relatively low life pool. Being hit while low on mana might kill you. Soul of Yugal would be great here for complete immunity against curses and a chance to reflex hexes. It is very good. The passive skill tree revolves around mana. We've basically picked every notable for maximum mana and mana regeneration within a reasonable distance. Add to that some power charges, elemental damage, maximum life, and critical strike nodes. For keystones, Iron Will and Mind over Matter. The Agnostic is here to transform it into Inner Conviction. For mana masteries, allocate mana recouped as life, and mana regeneration after using a guard skill. As life masteries, chose increased and added maximum life. Elemental mastery is good for elemental resistances, you might struggle with that. For your lightning mastery, pick the extra chain for your arc. That is all for this build. Note that it is still a fresh one, straight from our research lab, and not as good as most builds, so we'd like to see what you think about it in the comments, and how you would improve it. See you in the next one.